Alright, so we're going to do a tomato review on the Barry's Wild, I believe this is called the Barry's Crazy Cherry Tomato. That's what this is called, Barry's Crazy Cherry Tomato. So, unfortunately, the plant is succumbing to the aftermath of 3 weeks of solid rain and no sun, and that will kick in the blight like it normally does. And it will start to wipe out your tomato crop. So that's where we're at now. We're getting wiped out by the blight. And let me show you the leaf while I still can. It's generally a regular leaf, and this plant can get quite big if you leave it alone. It grows very similar to the Blankofken tomato. If you've never heard of the Blankofken, go look up what the Blankofken looks like. And I'm growing that this year, but it's not doing that good either. But the Blankofken usually produces tomato bracts like this, which is absolutely insane the way it produces tomatoes. Here's a good image of what a tomato bract would look like. You could see there's, I don't know, 50 to 100 tomatoes that come off of each one of those. And it comes out like a bursting cluster of tomatoes. It's incredible how many tomatoes can actually come out of that. It's kind of, what else does that? The rhizotrope kind of grows like that as well. But here's an interesting look to this tomato. It's kind of a grape tomato, but they got these little nipples on the bottom of the tomato. Like right there, you can see there's this little nipple down there. And it's not quite a grape. It's kind of like that pendant-shaped tomato. So it's a very interesting tomato. It is a nice yellow-looking tomato. And the one thing I did want to point out to you about this tomato is that they all seem to, when they get to their ripening stage, they all seem to get that very top cap on it turns yellow. And that's not turning yellow because the plant is sick and it's getting yellow and getting blighty and it's dying. No, it turns yellow because that's the color of the actual top of that I forgot what that's called. The cap on there. It turns yellow. Get you focus in. You see how it turns yellow? That's part of the plant's nature to do that, which is extremely unusual. I've never seen a tomato plant actually change its color to the cap. I know I have pepper plants that do that, but I've never seen a tomato plant do that. So this is one of the few plants that I've ever seen actually do that. And that's one way to know when to pick them. When that top part turns yellow like that, it's time to pick these tomatoes. So they're probably at their sweetest point at that point, because they do turn yellow like this and they stay like that for a bit, and then that top all turns yellow and then they come right off. So if you don't pick them by that point, they fall off the plant. So you want to make sure you pick them at least once you see them turn yellow. Don't leave them on there because they will fall and hit the ground. But yeah, I just wanted to show you what the plant looks like. If you look at the leaf and kind of the fruit cluster that comes off this thing is absolutely insane. That's an appropriate name for this plant, Crazy Cherry Tomato. That is absolutely appropriate. This variety is absolutely insane as far as growing it. Hopefully I can grow this one year without getting devastated by blight and really get a great harvest from it. But I have enough here for me to do a review on, and I want to get these ripe tomatoes off of this plant now so I can force the other tomatoes to start finishing up and ripening, because it's just going to be a matter of days, if not weeks, before the plant's wiped out completely by the blight, and so we need to get these tomatoes off of here. All right, so I'll see you at the bench. Okay, so we're up to the taste test part of this video, and this again is the Barry's Crazy Cherry Tomato. I don't have the information offhand exactly if it's a Lycopersicum or a Lycopersicon or any of those other ones. Correct name will be down in the description or the title. But I just want to show you the tomato, and this is a fascinating tomato. I really like this tomato a lot. Let me zoom you out. That's a very fascinating tomato. And they're cream-colored tomatoes. And one of the characteristics of this tomato, which is very unique, I've never really seen other tomatoes do this, but the very top part of the stem, this very top part, you can see is yellow, just like the tomato, and it turns yellow like that, and it's pretty much, once the tomato starts getting color, then the top part turns yellow too, and that's a really cool aspect of this tomato. So I definitely intrigued about its growing behavior. It's definitely different than a lot of the other tomatoes. As you could see in the earlier part of the video, you can see all the clustering it makes. It's not just like one little bract. This thing comes out very much like a Blancafkin tomato, and it's very much the same way, except this one's shape is more pendant shaped. In fact, this tomato shape is very much shaped like the chocolate sprinkles tomato that I'm really infatuated with this year. So, but yeah, the tops are really yellow on these. This is a real good example right here. You can see that yellow top on there. Isn't that cool? They turn yellow. It's not because it's dying. It's just the yellow changes. It's very similar in the pepper side of things. It's very similar to like the bubble gum, the 7-Pop bubble gum, where that calyx turns red like the rest of the pepper, which is very unique to that pepper. This is like a bubble gum type of tomato. The top actually turns yellow like the tomato. Very similar. So anyway, let's do a Brix. It's a little over 8, maybe 8.5. It's like 8, so that's pretty good. This is going to be a sweet tomato. And I'm kind of infatuated with the color of these tomatoes because they're so bone and cream in color. They just look juicy. They look absolutely delicious. So let's give it a taste test. Going in. Absolutely delicious. Absolutely sweet. Very mild in flavor, but yet sweet. More sweet than tomatoey, so it's kind of sugary. It's like eating a berry. So the one thing to note is on the bottom of this tomato, if you could see that on the bottom of the tomato right there, there's a point on it. That point is pretty sharp. It's actually pretty prominent, so when you first put it in your mouth, it kind of pokes you in your mouth. So keep that in mind with this tomato. The very bottom part is very pointy and pronounced. It's almost like a thorn coming out of the bottom. That's how pointy it is. But you can chew it up. It's fine. You're not going to get stuck in your throat or nothing. It's just when you first put it in there and you hit your tongue, it's sharp like a thorn. So as far as the sweet and sour goes, I'm going to say the sweetness is pretty high on this. I'm going to say like 38, 36 to 38. It's pretty high. And the tangy part is really low. It's probably like a 25, 28 on the tangy. It's just, you're very sweet. There's almost no tangy, but there is some tangy. And the tomato flavor's got a nice aftertaste. It's very mild in tomato flavor. It's not really very prominent and overwhelming or anything. It's perfect tomato. It's a great snacking tomato. If you like to go in your yard and pick your tomatoes and eat them as you're gardening, this is definitely one of those tomatoes to grow. I will be growing this again next year. Definitely. Like I say, keep in mind there is a thorn on the bottom of this tomato. It's very sharp. I'm telling you, like right now, I'm pushing down on it. I could barely push it down. I think I just broke it now, but it's sharp. It throws you off when you first eat it. So that's it. That's my tomato review for the Barry's Crazy Cherry Tomato. Like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.